All right, so I just watched Funny Pages by Owen Klein, 2022. Um, had a few thoughts on it. Gonna share those thoughts to no one except Oscar. So the film definitely has the Safdie brothers stink on it. Um, and I don't mean that as a derogatory way, although I don't know how you can take stink as anything other than derogatory, I guess, but really feels like um, heaven knows what. And a little bit of the Robert Pattinson one, whatever without good times. More so, heaven knows what though. With that kind of over or long running, um, like offbeat electronic music throughout, kind of popping up in moments of more surreal moments of the film. Like it made me think a lot of in heaven knows what when she falls asleep and has that dream that the guy she knows is like on fire in that basement and the music's going along with that, where it's definitely like pushing that kind of uh, dreamlike state that the film is kind of in to another level. And I do enjoy that because it really lends to those moments. It really amplifies film moments. Um, I think that in this film, it's a very greasy film. It's very gross. It some of the moments even go into like uh, Tim and Eric kind of level of like weird and gross. Um, I don't know how well to me it succeeds in any sort of comedy aspect. I didn't find it funny. I don't, dark comedy tones throughout. But yeah, I think that its biggest strength is kind of in that greasy veneer. Um, and I was thinking through the film because it does have that kind of 35 millimeter film grain to it. And I was wondering how well this would be without that filter on it, without that kind of film aspect to it, to the visuals. Uh, I feel like if it didn't have that, then it would be almost full on, like Tim and Eric, weird, surreal, gross humor. And so I think that the filter was good. I think that yeah, I think in the first half was really good. A lot of movement, a lot of energy, a lot of switching between like different small rooms, which I enjoyed. There wasn't much like outdoor movement throughout the film. But yeah, like even when they kind of go out, world, they're in like a car. Really, there's a lot of like closeness. It's like the camera is very close to like the people. It's good at creating space between. It's good at creating the atmosphere of like two people in very close to each other, uncomfortably close. So it's nice. I mean, it's good. It lends the atmosphere lends to this kind of like gross feel that the film kind of has to it. That being said, what does that do for me? Is that very good in terms of like an art? I don't know. Um, it it creates a mood, and so I think that's always a clear indicator that's doing something right to me. And in this case, the mood isn't exactly like a detached art beauty kind of mood that I generally like to associate really good art with. I know it sounds pretentious, but I'm like thinking like pacification, moments of pacification where I'm just like I'm I'm out of it. My mind is just like it's just so in. to the moment of the film, that the film is built up for various reasons, that it does feel like more spiritual, a spiritual connection to like this world of beauty. So in this, I'm like connected to a mood, but the mood isn't going towards beauty at all. So I give it credit for creating a very good mood, but perhaps it's not a very spiritual mood, I guess, which, so I don't know. And I think it drags on a bit towards the end, and then at the end there's a long sequence where they kind of start talking a lot about um, art for money versus art for like the idea, the creativity of it, form versus what was it form versus idea? I think is kind of like what they were saying, I mean, outright saying in the dialogue. And I think that that scene was the weakest scene, and that kind of really hampered a lot of it because I probably would have taken that in just throughout the atmosphere of like that kind of greasy underground, or not underground, I mean greasy, just like comic book, low level comic book sleaze, um, versus the kind of like well, I guess in retrospect they didn't really ever show a high, and that was kind of interesting in terms of engagement. They never really show like a high class like sellout point, because the sellout guy is the one making superhero comics, who's like just a completely mean spirited person who's also like most likely autistic, but also just like detached from kind of the world. Um, yeah, but my mind naturally goes to like I want to be in the comic book sleaze versus the kind of nice stability that his parents have with, I guess, these kind of assumptions built up from the dialogue of getting a college degree and working professionally. So there's definitely like some moving parts there going on throughout the film that's kind of seeping in based off of the atmosphere and like the locations and the grease and the filth shown as he like kind of makes this little underground journey through like the comic book um, life versus the life he has at home with stability and stuff. So you're already making those kind of assumptions and connections, and the brain's working already on that level. And then that scene at the end where they bring up the dialogue, it's just, first of all, it's long and it's not a very engaging conversation because it's kind of just repeating itself. It feels almost ad-libbed, which is not usually a good thing, in my opinion, because it does go too long and it does end up repeating itself, just like I'm repeating myself right now. Um, but then it punctures it pretty well, like this strangely violent scene where they fight, and then one character gets a like pencil through his head, and there's blood coming out, and the blood, it looks like paint blood, which was nice, or looks like paint, like just red paint, which is kind of, I think that is good. I liked that puncturing point, where it really just kind of breaks that long dialogue scene, but then it's also like, and it's interesting that then it just pushes further into like this maniacal state of like what is going on, and everyone's kind of experiencing that. Like he's freaking out, his dad freaks out, the guy gets punctured, freaks out, the guy punctured, freaks out, just a complete freak out, and that was great. That was it was nice, like yeah, that's a nice just like way to cut through the dialogue. And so yeah, I don't know how to take that the whole sequence in together as one, but I did enjoy that ending to that situation. And I thought the ending credits were probably the best part of the movie, where it is just that weird electronic music going, and the credits are going, and it's just a slow zoom on his face, and he's kind of tearing up. He's just kind of like, yeah, it's good. See lots of very memorable faces, but yeah, like Tim and Eric faces of just like weird regular people. Um, but yeah, I thought the acting was very, yeah, the acting was very good, which is mostly propelled just by like the unknown status of these actors and the weirdness of them and the kind of, yeah, once you're into the underbelly kind of vibe, it all fits. It all is realistic in that sense, but it is still all very, not very, but it is still all surreal. And yeah, yeah. So overall, I think that there's a lot good going for this film, but the like overall mood and what is pointing me towards, what my mind goes towards with it, the mood it's created. I don't know how I feel about that. It is still that struggle of like, okay, the film succeeds at doing what it wants to do. Is that what I should judge on, or should I judge on if it gives me a kind of transcendental experience? But yeah, but also I have to say, like, I love hangout movies, and this is just like a surreal hangout movie for most of it. Um, yeah, I think I'm talking myself into liking this movie a lot, actually. I do think that, yeah, God, I wish it wasn't produced by A24. I hate A24, so it really it pains me to like this movie. And I do think this movie will get a lot of recognition and praise and stuff. But yeah, I think that you do have to consider the timeline of it and its influence at the Safdies. I mean, they produced it, I think it said, and they have some of their actors in it. That one guy from Good Time, but that does kind of take me out of it. No, it's like, okay, this is very clearly like a taking from that, but yeah, good sleaze. It is very mean spirited too. That is another thing I was going to bring up. Like the characters are all pretty gross or mean, except for a few, and they don't offer any like kind of redemption to them in any sense. Now that doesn't bother me. Um, I think it adds to the sleaze and the realism of the in world that it's created. But yeah, I think that maybe the heightened reality of this role that create where every character is a kind of garbage person, maybe it might be too much, where it kind of takes you out of it. And you're like, okay, no one's gonna be nice. I don't know. That point's a little weak. I don't know. I'm just kind of trying to pick at it because I'm trying to find more things to antagonize the film about. But yeah, overall, good, good stuff.